Good morning again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I'd like to begin on a little lighter note here. So a priest and a cab driver arrive at the pearly gates at the same time. And St. Peter opens the gates and lets the cab driver in and tells the priest to wait. Well, the priest is really upset. He bangs on the door and says, "Wait a minute, I have given a sermon every Sunday for the last 40 years. Why aren't you letting me in?" And St. Peter replied, "When you gave your sermon, people slept. When this cab driver drove, people prayed." So you never can tell what's really happening. So faith, what is faith? Well, of course, in the Bible, in Hebrews, it says, and I'm reading the King James because that was the first Bible I ever had. Somebody gave me a King James Bible when I was like 7. And it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So it's something that we hope for that we can't see yet, but we are knowing that the appearances are not the truth. The appearances are not the truth, that there is something else happening here. So we're not talking about a faith as belief in a traditional doctrine of any kind, of any particular religion. I'm not talking about religion. I am talking about a state of mind that has confidence in what we hope for, and that knows that appearances don't tell the whole truth. So we live by faith every single day. I live by faith in the law of gravitation that holds me on the earth so I don't go spinning off into space, right? We have all of these laws that govern us in each and every moment. I mean, the law of aeronautics that allows me to take off in a plane that's heavier than you think this heavy thing, this huge heavy thing with all these people and all this luggage, how can it move? Because we have these laws of mathematics and these laws of physics that allow us to do these miraculous things. I mean, if you had told a person 200 years ago that you could fly across the country in a few hours, they would have said you were totally bonkers. And yet we do. We take it for granted now. Because people had faith that they could do something that wasn't done before, that they had an idea and they had a belief in that idea. And excuse me, we didn't learn about these laws, excuse me, we didn't get them as tablets from on high. We learned about them through trial and error. We learned about these laws of physics, these laws of mathematics, by working with them and figuring out what worked. And it had to work for everybody. If you do mathematics or you do mathematics, the answers come out if we follow the rules. So we all can practice these laws. And what we have also come to know, in addition to the scientists and the philosophers who came up with all these laws of physics and metaphysics, physics and science, we also have the spiritual teachers who came along and told us about the metaphysical laws. Now, those laws do work, but we don't seem to believe them enough to work them. In other words, people don't understand the metaphysical truths because they've been piled on with all kinds of cultural and religious and all kinds of hoo-ha that gets piled on top of them so that we can't see the truth that the mystics of each religion have come up with. The people who started each religion had a physical experience, a realization of the presence of God. And they tried to tell people about how that came about for them. But people got lost in the understanding of how that happened. Because everybody is writing a book. The 7 laws of blah blah, the 18 ways of blah blah. You know, everybody's writing a book. And it's true because everybody has their own way of connecting. We're each unique beings. And one size does not fit all. So whatever works for one individual, I mean, you know, if you want to go and, you know, handle snakes and, you know, do all of that kind of stuff. I mean, if that works for you, if that gives you an experience of God, go do it, you know. If you want to go, you know, pray to Allah and up and down 5 times a day, yay, good, because it works for you. But I think each of us has to realize what works for us. So building our faith comes through a spiritual practice of some kind. Now, of course, in New Thought, we don't tell you, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. We recommend things like meditation, affirmative prayer, a study of spiritual truth, what the masters have told us. We practice service, we practice generosity, we practice gratitude. We have these practices, and if we do these practices faithfully in our own way, in other words, there's not one right way to meditate. You do not have to put your legs in a certain way and sit on a certain pillow and hold your hands in a certain way and light certain candles and have certain incense. I mean, you figure out what works for you. If the candles and the incense and the forms work for you, go for it. But if you can sit in a chair and feel the presence of God, if you can walk in a forest and feel the presence of God, it's your life and your form of meditation. So when we connect with Spirit, we have to communicate regularly. This is a relationship. You know, God is universal, but it's also personal. You know, if you have a personal relationship, with someone who loves you and whom you love, I would hope that you talk to them frequently, right? You connect with them at least daily, maybe more than once a day. And so the same thing is true with Spirit. We connect with our spiritual practice every day. And we realize that it is a relationship that we are having. We are understanding that it's a personal connection, like any other personal connection, that we have to be responsible to it if we want it to be responsible to us. We have to be faithful to it if we want it to be faithful to us. So, when I first started out in New Thought, I was a software project manager for a major corporation. And I used to wake up with panic attacks frequently. You know, I would wake up and just think I was having a heart attack and I couldn't breathe and blah, 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 blah. And I would wake up in this panic mode. So when I started with New Thought, I thought, okay, I'm going to do an affirmative prayer. And I would do affirmative prayer and I would still be caught up in the panic attack. So then I started praying for other people. And that worked. I would pray for other people, and I realized that probably that's because I grew up in a church that said, you know, I wasn't worthy of God's love. I wasn't worthy to have blessings. I wasn't worthy to have these experiences of healing and peace and all of those things. So I could believe it for other people, so I would pray for other people and believe that they deserved it, and so I could go right back to sleep. So I found out what worked for me in that situation. Then later I realized that part of the problem was that I wasn't believing in myself, that I had a bunch of beliefs in there that were not helpful, that were not helping me to realize the presence of God and to be a faithful practitioner of the presence of God. So I had to do other things. And I took baby steps. When I left the corporation and became a consultant, I decided I would get a master's degree in information systems. And so I enrolled in this master's degree course, and I was paying for it. And I got audited by the IRS because they couldn't believe that I was actually paying for this huge amount of money, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I get audited by the IRS. So, you know, this is sort of an anxiety-producing thing. It's like, oh my God, I'm driving to the IRS, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I be upset? I'm a good person. I've always been a good girl. I'm a good girl. And I just kept saying that to myself, I'm a good girl. This isn't going to, you know, this is not a big deal for me. And I just felt this peace come over me. I felt this peace wash over me and said, no problem. So I went into the IRS office. I presented them with my data. They were like, okay, cool, bye. And, you know, so I walked out and I could see all these other people in the IRS office, you know, who were all shaking with fear. But I was so calm, I was like peaceful, because I knew that I was a good person and that I had done the right thing, that I wasn't trying to cheat anybody out of anything. If I want to experience the faith of God, I have to have faith in myself, and that means I have to be a person who is faithful. In other words, that people can count on me. If I say that I'm going to do something, I am going to be there, and I'm going to do it. I am going to be honest with others because I want them to be honest with me. I'm going to be trustworthy because I want to be able to trust in others. And so it all begins with us. Reason and science have brought us many gifts, but they are not the sum of everything. They are not the be-all of everything. Beyond the study of science is the study of metaphysics, greater than physics, greater than the physical. So there is a knowing that is greater than reason. And that is what we practice when we practice the presence of God. We practice connecting with something infinite, something that knows. We become knowers. You've heard of agnostics. Those are people who don't know, right? But Gnostics are people who know. Gnosos is the quality of knowing. And you don't know how you know, but you know. I don't know if you saw the movie Sully. It was a movie about Sullenberger who landed his plane on the Hudson River. And it goes through the whole process of that story where he was, you know, in this situation where birds had come into the engines failed, and the computer model said he could have made it back to the airport. Well, he knew he could not make it back to the airport, that he was going to crash into a building in downtown Manhattan if he didn't land that in the river. And so he followed his own intuition and his own experience, landed it in the river, and saved every single individual on that plane. Because he was not looking at what the computer was saying, what the models were saying, what the algorithm was saying. He was knowing something that was absolutely present in him. We all have that capacity and that capability of knowing what we know. And we have to have faith in that knowing. There's a movie starting at the Onyx this week. It's called Maybe. And it's about a young woman, 24-year-old Tracy Edwards, who was a cook. And she was a cook on chartered boats. Well, she decided she wanted to participate in the Whitbread Round the World sailing race. So she mortgaged her home and bought a used boat and got an all-female crew. Now the thing was, her male competitors said that an all-woman crew would never make it. The yachting press took bets on her failure, and potential sponsors rejected her, fearing that they would die at sea and generate bad publicity. But she believed that it could be done. Excuse me. She believed that it could be done. And she was so passionate in her belief that she recruited these other female sailors who joined her. And when she lost her faith, when she had doubts along the way, her crew reminded her. Her crew reminded her of that vision that she held of completing this race. And it was so inspirational. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I saw the trailer. And you know, it shows when the women come sailing into this port, there's all these little girls and all these women there, like, you know, cheering them on because they were doing something that they said could not be done. And yet it was done. They did it because they believed that they could. They had faith in Tracy, and she had faith in them. You know, there's a song by Melissa Felipe and Michael Gott that says, "When I forget, will you remember for me? When I forget, will you remember for me?" So sometimes we have to be reminded of the vision that we have. We have to be reminded of the faith that we inspired in someone else. And then allow that faith to come back to us, so that we can share it with each other, we can uplift each other, we can use the energy together to raise one another up to a higher level. And to, you know, we all have doubts. We're trained to have doubts. That's our scientific aspect. We're trained to doubt until you can prove it, right? Till you know, show me the proof. So we have this doubt factor. We just have to raise our faith factor higher than our doubt factor. And we do that through our practice, through daily connection with the presence of God, daily realizations. And when you do that faithfully, when you are faithful to your practice, amazing things can unfold. When I took this ministry in Grass Valley, I had never been a senior minister before. I'd been an assistant minister. And I didn't know if I could do it, what I could do, but I just said, okay, this has come to me, and all these different factors had lined up to align and allow me to do this. So it must be what is supposed to happen. So I had faith that I could do it. And it turned out to be more miraculous than I could have ever thought of or planned. It involved me not only having a wonderful congregation and wonderful retreats and being able to go to Fiji and Costa Rica on metaphysical retreats, leading retreats in those places. That was like something I would never have thought of. But Spirit has all kinds of good for us that we don't even know about if we just let Spirit have its way with us. And we do that through that everyday practice. That's how we build our faith. Inch by inch, day by day, little bit by little bit, we build it up, we build it up, we build it up, until we realize that we're living in it, we are it. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind, says, faith is a mental attitude so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. Faith is complete when it is both a conscious and a subjective acceptance. That is, it's a conscious and unconscious acceptance. In other words, we have done it so much that it is part of who we are, consciously and unconsciously. It allows us to be Gnostics, knowers, believers, faithful. And we have to remember to practice our faith in other people, in institutions, in businesses. And if our faith is not held up in those individuals and those organizations, then we just have to let them go. We have to be faithful to the faithful. We have to trust in the trustworthy. Let us take that into meditation. So we step into that realization of faith. Mother Teresa said, practice faith in the small things. For that is where it can be realized. So we know that by practicing faith in our small things each and every day, and we are building a foundation of faith that supports us through any appearance, anything that looks unlike good. We open to our faith in the good. Gently moving back into the room, accepting this good. I know that all is well. I'm sorry.